One of the hot topics in the trucking industry today is whether or not the government should mandate UnderRide guards for all semi-trailers. This video is sponsored by GP Transco. So essentially what this means is building UnderRide guard systems so that small cars cannot get underneath the trailer in an accident situation. Now this wouldn't apply to a lot of trailers like cattle pots or low boys, car trailers, enclosed car trailers, that type of thing. It basically affects dry boxes and reefers. So basically what this UnderRide system would do would be to build an aluminum or steel barrier below the sides of these trailers so that cars could not get underneath them in an accident situation. At speed, a collision like this would put the car well underneath the trailer, taking off the roof posts and decapitating the occupant. I was surprised how vehemently the trucking industry was opposed to this potential mandate, and their biggest factor in all of this was cost, the potential cost of doing that. And when they worked out the cost, they figured that each UnderRide system would cost about $3,000 per trailer. Not a whole lot, in my opinion, if it saved lives. But the trucking industry is always concerned about things called cost-benefit analysis. And what they're truly saying is that the amount of lives that an UnderRide system would save would not be worth the cost of implementing this mandate. Sounds pretty cold to me. There are other concerns as well with an UnderRide system, such as the weight, the structure, how will it affect the trailer floor, how would a driver get underneath the trailer to do a circle check, fix an airline, those type of things, but primarily it was the cost of installing such a system. Now, of course, the safety advocacy groups, the ones that are pushing this mandate, aren't at all concerned about the cost of the implementation of this mandate because it costs them nothing. Their attitude is, at any cost, if it saves a life, it will be worth it. Now, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration estimates that an UnderRide system underneath all highway trailers mandated would save roughly 89 deaths every year and 409 serious injuries. And my attitude once again is for $3,000, why would you not do that? But let's look at some facts here. The fact is that we know statistically, we have proof beyond a reasonable doubt that the majority of accidents, between 70 to 90% of all accidents, are caused by the four-wheelers. This includes all UnderRide accidents. So here are my thoughts on this. I would mandate UnderRide guard systems for all tanker trailers with a bottom loading and unloading system. That way, if a car slid underneath a tanker, it wouldn't rupture these valves and create an environmental hazard spill or potentially a huge fireball explosion like we saw on I-95 this week. For all other trailer types of mandates for UnderRide systems, I would say that allow the people that own the trailers to choose whether or not they install an UnderRide system, and if they choose to do so, have the government fund that installation. Now, the mega carriers can easily afford $3,000 per unit per trailer to put these UnderRide systems underneath their trailers. It's the little guys, the small carriers, the independent owner-operators that I worry about, because $3,000 a trailer is a big chunk of change to those guys. So I say, if those guys choose to put UnderRide systems underneath the trailers, that the government reimburse them for that. 2023 is a year of freight recession. So how, as a truck driver, do you combat a recession like that? You work for a good carrier. You work for a good carrier that's not having a shortage of freight. GP Transco has no shortage of freight. First-year drivers make between $80,000 and $95,000 per year. They've got a 401k with a match, W-2 benefits, and they're busy all the time. They're also hiring owner-operators. Check them out at gptransco.com. But in the bigger picture, the overall picture, the long-range picture, what does this Band-Aid solution and all these other Band-Aid solutions really accomplish in the long run? Like, it's great to implement all these little ideas. Some of them work, some of them don't. But why doesn't the government take the bull by the horns and tackle the real problem? And the real problem is how poorly the four-wheeler drives. They're causing all the accidents. Why is the trucking industry always getting hit out of pocket to fix these mistakes and problems that the four-wheelers are having? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because Washington does not want to be connected with mandating the public to learn to have better driving habits, have more enforcement, have testing and retesting of four-wheeler drivers. They don't want to be associated with that, because if they are, they know they won't get reelected. So we in the trucking industry now have to start looking at things like building soft foam rubber trucks with surrounding airbag systems just to protect these people that cannot drive. I have a problem with that. I'm sick of government and the industry coming together and finding that the trucking company is guilty and has to fix the problem financially. It's always out of the trucker's pocket. I think if the government funded a little more of this stuff out of taxpayer dollars and told the taxpayers why, maybe that would have some positive impact. So why does the government keep shoving the cost of this stuff onto the trucking industry? They know it's because the big guys, the mega carriers, can manage that cost, and the little guys that have trouble with it, they don't really care about those guys. And that's the sad truth of it. So let me tell you my story as to why I actually think UnderRide systems are a good idea. Many years ago, my friend Jimmy Lee and I were trucking westbound on the 401 at night in a snowstorm. The weather was bad. We were just crawling along. We had to be out there because we had air freight. So we had to keep going as best we could. But we were puttering along. We were going west. Some guys going east yelled at us over the CB radio and said, "Hey man, slow down. There's a big wreck ahead of you." So we idled right down. We were creeping. So we were just edging along, and sooner or later we came across the accident. And it was a semi-trailer sideways right across the road, and a van full of people had driven right underneath this trailer, not seeing it until it was too late, and that accident had decapitated all those people in the van. It was 7 or 8 people died in that incident. It was awful. It was one of the worst accidents I've ever been to. An UnderRide system would have saved those people's lives. Yes, they would hit the UnderRide system and bounced off. If they'd had their seatbelts on, they would have been injured, but none of them would have been killed. But it was the fact that they got underneath the trailer that killed them all. And that's why I still think UnderRide systems would be a good idea. Stay safe, keep the rubber side down, and I'll see you on the backhaul.